Hello all, and welcome to our in-district meeting webinar. I'm Megan Ortegon, and I am the Manager of Public Policy at the American Library Association. Our goal for this webinar is to build on the conversation that began during National Library Legislative Day, encouraging advocates to invite their elected officials to tour their libraries or to attend other events. We see this as a critical step in building relationships with your elected officials. And we hope that this webinar will inspire you to plan in-district events during the August recess or at a future date. So before we begin, I would like to introduce our panel. On the line, we have Hallie Rich, Communications and External Relations Director at the Cuyahoga County Public Library, Lance Werner, Executive Director of Kent District Library, and Mary Hastler, CEO of Harford County Public Library. So first of all, thank you all for joining us and lending us your expertise on this in-district meeting. So let's begin by the first question, which is, tell us about one event that you hosted in your library that elected officials attended. And I don't know who wants to start first.
Well, I'm happy to jump in. I can talk about an event that we did a couple of years ago. We ended up doing a ribbon cutting event to celebrate a gift that enabled us to renovate completely the children's area in one of our branches. And it was a gift from a local company. So it was a large grant. And we thought it would be really great to be able to recognize that gift in some special way and also find a way to bring in a local elected official just to help celebrate, mark the occasion, and help make them aware of the work that we're doing in the library. So the event that we did included U.S. Congressman Dave Joyce. We invited him. We worked with his district director to find a date that worked for his schedule. The children's space had already been opened, and so we didn't have a tough deadline that we had to meet, that we were really strict about dates. So we were able to be flexible to find a date that would work for the congressman. And we invited representatives from this large Fortune 500 company that had made the gift, other local elected officials. We invited the mayor to be there to speak. And we had a little lunch and we made it a celebration. We were able to talk about the unique things that we're doing to support early literacy. And to help tell that broader library story. So it really was an opportunity for us to share a little bit about what we're doing at Cuyahoga County Public Library that perhaps the congressman and other local officials weren't as familiar with. And I think one thing that was unique about the event and that what made it possible for us to do it was that it was a relationship with the congressman that we had built prior to his even being in office. And we had worked with our local newspaper during the election season to host candidate conversations. And so it was really about us opening up our buildings to allow candidates to come in and speak. And we did that in concert with Cleveland.com, which is a local news outlet. And in that way, we were unconscious to a certain extent about the opportunity then further down the road. But it was through that initial partnership that we got to meet the man who ultimately became the congressman then, and start to nurture that relationship. And that's the kind of thing that I think any library can work on. You never know what other community partnerships might be able to lead to in the future in terms of expanding relationships with elected officials. That's a little bit about one event that we did and one way that we kind of built that relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's really important also to note that there are a variety of types of events that you can invite your elected official to, especially, and I think that's one area that is very unique to libraries, that it crosses a broad array of topics and issue areas. And really, if you have an elected official who's interested in veterans affairs or interested in workforce development, the great thing is that there are a bunch of topics or a bunch of events that happen that they need to host, for example, a town hall, or events that you all are hosting that you can invite them to that they already have an invested interest in. So that's really great. Does anyone else have any other events that they want to speak to?
Yeah, actually, we've done a number of different things. First of all, we have arranged with a lot of our state legislators that represent this area, and we're a pretty large geographic area, so we have a number of state legislators. We've arranged for a lot of them to have their office hours in the library, and so they're able to meet constituents in the library and become more familiar with the space, and at the same time, get a good sense of what the day-to-day goings on are at the library. So it's wonderful when we can have them in when we have children's programs or they see a lot of foot traffic or see the parking lots full. But we had one thing in particular that I thought was really well received, and in 2017 we had a bill package that was adopted by the legislature, and we've been trying to get it passed for about 20 years. And it was something that was widely coveted by all of the taxing authorities in the state and was something that was coveted by all the associations representing those authorities. And the Michigan Library Association, I believe, is the smallest from the associations. And we managed to pull a unicorn out of a bag and get it passed. And we did that really based on relationships. And I can't stress enough how important having those relationships is. So as a result, we partnered with the Michigan Library Association, who was on point, and I was actually there at the time as a legislative chair of the Library Association. We partnered with them to have recognitions of all the legislators that voted to approve the bill package, and really made a big celebration out of it. Invited them all to come. We invited the media. And we had a big celebration at one of our board meetings and gave them a chance to be recognized. I think they really appreciated that. And I have to say, at least the legislators in Kent County are hugely supportive of the library. At least the state ones are. The congressional legislature, our representative, maybe not so much, but we're working on it. Again, it really goes back to having great relationship with legislators and with different municipal officials, and cultivating those relationships and staying in touch and making sure the library's their home too. We also have candidate forums or the things like that in the library, and we're open for town hall events. So particularly Justin Amash likes to have town halls, and we have our spaces available to him.
And this is Mary, and I would ditto on all of that. It's really important to give them the opportunity to come to the library to talk to their constituents. It's really critical for them. And I want to add on to that and emphasize it's a partnership. It's a 365-day year of partnership. They just don't hear from us once a year when we want something. And we like to have fun in Harford County. So we have a huge gala. We have about 850 people. Tickets sell out in 17 seconds. They are gone. We raise a lot of money from it, but it's really our opportunity from the library to give back to everyone else and thank them. So everybody comes to it who wants to be seen. And then we do something smaller. We do a fairy tale festival. And this is just a small example. This will be our third year. And we have celebrity readers, and we always invite our representatives to come and be a celebrity reader. And it's perfectly fine if they send their legislative aid, but they all clamor to come. Some of them will bring their favorite books. Some of them will dress up in costumes. It's really a fun day, and it gives them an opportunity to be seen with their customers in a very different light, as opposed to always talking about issues. This is really fun, and they can all kind of get their arms around it.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I know that, of course, they have their legislative priorities, or they have their priorities on the city, state level or federal level, but also being able to just really engage with their community and with their constituency and your patrons is very important to them as well. And those events are really great for them to take a step back and relax a little bit, but be able to have some fun as well. So that's fantastic. I think we'll move on to our next question, which I know is a question that many actually may have, is what steps did you take to prepare, and how did you get your elected official on board to attend an event?
I'll take that one first. That's a fun one. And you have to start, if you're starting from scratch, first of all, you've got to get their names correct and what their titles are. You don't want to call a senator a delegate or a delegate senator. I mean, it's just basic rules. Understand that. Also recognize them. Reach out to them. Make sure they're getting your e-news or your whatever you're using to convey your information. If you have a printed something, send that down to them. And then also, the most important thing is they like to feel special. they like to feel appreciated. So even if they're not exactly representing what you would hope they're representing, you need to include them, because you never know what committee they're going to be on to make a financial decision that may affect you. So it really is talking to them, going to their events. We get invited to a lot of their events, and I go and show up and we shake hands and we talk about the latest thing happening at the library. But it's really important to support them. And you heard lots of good ideas in the earlier question about giving them space so they can talk to folks. But it really is getting your basics straight first, and having your details ready. Because remember, they're really busy people. So if you want them to come to an event, be concise. This is what we'd like you to do. This is the event. Give them background information. So if they want to do a proclamation, they can bring it with them, and then tell them specifically what they're going to do, and use their time wisely. Don't just give, well, we're here from 3 hours and you can just wander in, because they probably won't do that. But if you say, we really would like you to be there at 4 o'clock to do XYZ, a photo op. Photo ops are great. Always have cameras there. Always, no matter what you're doing, always have a camera there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it's absolutely critical to do your homework, not just on, the elected official that you're trying to get into the library and interact with, but also on their staffers and on people that are around them. So you're familiar with basically their whole outfit, if you will. And, I started up in fact, all of my relationships with all of the elected officials that we interact with. I used this sneaky object called my phone, and I get on the phone and set up a phone call in an initial meeting. Usually that occurs in their office, and then I get to know them and we kind of ramp things up. Maybe we move it slow, we go phone to coffee to Chinese food, and start, lighting getting that spark going, and then, making it into a flame, and then a roaring fire of support. It's just a matter of being involved. And also, I think it's extremely important to reiterate, there's no room for our own personal politics when we're dealing with our elected officials. You might have an opinion about the way they voted on such and such. That doesn't really matter. You represent the library. And that's critical. And I think taking our own luggage out of the equation is absolutely critical. And I think, like any relationship, if you built a strong foundation and you're having an event, getting them to the library is actually a lot easier than you think, particularly if the staffers like you and they know there's going to be a media presence and they're going to be among people that are, celebrating them and making them feel welcome.
Yeah, and I would just echo what both Mary and Lance had to say in terms of doing your homework. Understand what issues are particularly important to that elected official, and try to think about what the hook is that would make your event or your program, what would make it interesting for them. And you can understand that based on the relationships that you've built ahead of time. So, I think Lance speaks to that really well, that it's not just about a one-time pick up the phone or shoot the email and say, oh, we hope that you'll attend X, Y, Z. It's about nurturing the relationship so that when you have an opportunity that you really want them to engage with, you understand what things are important to them, whether that's being able to connect with constituents and be able to have an opportunity for FaceTime with their constituents, whether that's a media opportunity that you can help plug them in so that they're able to, again, be in front of their constituents in a positive light, or maybe it's helping to connect them with a company or a particular donor, or an individual or group that you think would be helpful to their position on a particular policy issue. So it's really understanding what's important to them and figuring out how the library can support that, and that's about really building a relationship longer term.
Can I add one more thing? I think it's really important that they feel like it's going to be a safe environment, because if they come into an environment that's not safe, they're not going to come back to that environment. And ideally, I think if you're doing this really, really well, you will know them, you'll have a personal relationship with a person. So in our case, it might be Lisa Postmus Lyons, who is a representative, since moved on to a county position. I could ask her about her kids and see how football season was going and what her husband was up to. And she would ask me the same type of thing. So we had a personal, like a friendship, a relationship. And so there wasn't any sort of formality around it. I knew her staffers. We're all on a first name basis. We were hugging friends, which wasn't weird. Don't make it creepy. And just having that level of engagement, though, really pays huge dividends. It really does. I mean, you can beat money with friendship. You really can. Not every time, but I guarantee you're going to get further with friendship than you will without it.
Yeah, and one thing that I'll add, just as a way of background for me, I used to be a congressional staffer, so I was that person that had to do all of the logistics behind the scene to arrange, the member's going to get here at this time, and what are they going to do? Who are they going to meet? And my member in particular wanted to make sure exactly what you said, Lance, that there was an environment that he had all the information for, and really that it was going to be really engaging. And I, as a staffer, whenever we had our town hall meetings at libraries, the library was great to reach out to us to say, these are the people that will be in attendance. This is what the member will walk into. This is the entrance that they'll walk into. All of those logistics, and that is very helpful. And it created a trust as a staffer with that library. And it really helped to encourage me to have more events there because it was an environment that was comfortable. I was comfortable with the mission that they were telling us about, and so I think it was very engaging in that way. But I agree with what all you say. Those are very, very good points. Which actually kind of leads into our next question. What is one do or one don't that you should share with others hoping to plan similar type of events?
Don't bring your own luggage and no gotcha questions right out of the gate. Don't leave your hammer at home.
Yeah. Make sure you set aside a parking spot designated for the person.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah.
Convenient to the entrance they're coming in.
I would say, I'm sorry, go on.
No, I think whatever you can do to make it really easy, both for the elected official and for their staff, giving that very detailed, here's where you're going to come in, here's some bullet points on what the library is up to, here's the crowd that you're going to be reaching. I mean, to the extent that you can really fully prep their office, we know that they're incredibly busy and that we're one of a multitude of groups or organizations that they're hearing from and talking with. So I think to the extent that you can just make it really easy for them and comfortable, that is always a nice feather in your cap.
Have you ever received any feedback from a staffer or a member of Congress saying, this is something that I really enjoyed in particular, whether that was like a briefing packet that was given to them before the event, whether it was a conference call? Is there anything in specific that you can share with everyone that's watching?
Yes, I found it very helpful when we do ribbon cuttings, and we have several elected officials here, to make sure, don't assume anything. Never assume. If one elected official says they're going to read the proclamation, make sure all the other elected officials know that that one is reading the proclamation, because we actually had at one of our ribbon cuttings, one of the officials got a little bit upset because they wanted to present the proclamation and the other one took it over from them, and we got caught in the middle. We handled it very well, but don't assume anything. Make sure you have a tight agenda. Everybody knows when they're speaking, have it in the right order of, as I refer to it as hierarchy, there might be another word to it, but you want to make sure that they're speaking in their ranking order, whatever works in your community.
Does anyone else have anything else to add?
No, great advice. I agree with everything that everybody else has said has been spot on.
Perfect. Okay, so I guess we'll go on to our last question that I have is, how did you follow up with your elected official after the event? And I know this is very important because follow-up is extremely important.
Well, for our Fairy Tale Festival, we took our library logo, which is fairly new, and turned it into a Valentine's Day logo where it looked like our logo, but instead of having our STEM items in the logo, we had little hearts and cupids. And I sent handwritten notes to everyone who came and was a celebrity reader. That was followed up with an official thank you that was, typed in on our regular letterhead. But they all really liked getting that. And then we do a press release. We do media alerts, and we do all the social networking too. We're tweeting, we do the live feeds during the event. So there's plenty of opportunity for them to get terrific coverage. Yeah,
I mean, the same kind of thing, a formal thank you note, email follow-up with in the case of the event, I was talking about the district director, and just letting him know that we'd keep him apprised of other things that we had going on, other opportunities that might have been be of interest to the congressman, and as well following up, sending over some of the photography from the event so that the elected official could use that in their newsletters or outreach to constituents. Oftentimes they like that. So we shared all of the professional photography as well.
And I don't really have anything to add. We do similar things, other than I do reach out personally to whoever it is. And if it's, depending on our relationship, usually I'll invite them to lunch or something just to follow up with them informally. It's not me.
Not me.
It was me. I'm sorry. But yeah, I think so. We have a couple minutes, and I guess I just want to see if you all have any other particular examples of maybe thinking of outside the box type of events that you've invited a member of Congress to. For example, one that I can think of here that we conducted with the Washington office is we had an event called Digital Fab, and it was held on the Hill, and it was focusing on informing congressional staff and members about makerspaces in libraries. And we invited a bunch of members of Congress and their staff to come, and we had a couple of staff members that came in and were like, what? You all have 3D printers? Like, this is amazing. This is something I'm really interested in. And they went off and told their members of Congress. We had a couple of meetings that happened specifically because of that event, because it sparked their interest. And they were excited to be able to engage more with their library. And then they further saw it as an opportunity for growth for some of their own legislative issue areas, and then they could partner with their local library. So do you all have any specific examples that you can give to everyone who's watching too, of maybe an outside of the box event that might be interesting?
Well, we hosted the Outlander exhibit last year that was traveling throughout the country, and the exhibit was very nice. And of course, we did have a happy hour to kick it off. And but we also tweaked it a little bit. It's like when you have a party at your house, where does everybody end up? In the kitchen, right? Mm-hmm. So we have a kitchen, but we do have our Streamworks, which is our innovation lab, and we had just installed Beam. So we had everybody down in this little room where Beam was playing and interacting with the augmented reality right there. So they could see it. I didn't even have to explain what it was. They just got so excited about it because they hadn't seen it before, unless you've been to Disney or perhaps maybe another library. But it was taking a typical ribbon cutting happy hour, come and see the exhibit, and let's all go down, see what's happening in the children's area where we have our 3D technology and everything else. So they really got a big hit, and they saw it in a very different light.
That's great. They got their hands-on experience with that technology too. Because to see it is one thing, but to actually engage with it and engage with other patrons that are utilizing those services as well, that's really engaging for, I guess, an elected official to see too. Does anyone else?
This is a little bit of a different kind of example, but a couple of years ago when President Obama put forward the Connect Ed library initiative, getting a card into the hands of every kid in the United States, we actually reached out to two of our congressional representatives from different sides of the aisle and worked with them to have them co-author an op-ed piece in support of libraries and in support of the Library Card Sign-Up Month. And we felt like it was a really nice way to work with both of those members of Congress to get their support, to help inform them. Again, it was that opportunity to tell our story and demonstrate the kinds of things that libraries are doing that are perhaps, that they were less familiar with. And it was, we were intentional in trying to get folks representing both political parties. So that's just a different kind of approach, but didn't require an event. It was really about helping to craft a statement that then their teams both tinkered with and ultimately was published.
That's great.
As far as unusual things go, I mean, I don't think that we've done anything extraordinary and unusual. But I will say that, I mean, I personally engage with staffers in district informally. We go out and have cocktails, talk about what's going on at work, have dinner together, and just maintain ongoing relationships with them, and invite them into our space and do things kind of like one-off things, on occasion. Kind of let them know what's going on. Nothing so formal. I think it's easier sometimes for our Congress people not to have to always be traveling and rely on their sort of on-site folks to engage with the library a little bit. And so I do want to try to make it easy and convenient. And of course, if we have an opportunity to have somebody in, we do. And it's easier for me to maintain those too. So my scheduling's not so crazy.
Yeah, of course. And so I think that's pretty much everything that we had scheduled for this time, but I think we covered an array of topics. To everyone who's watching, really hope that this was helpful to you, that you have some ideas. And again, just want to remind you all that the August recess is approaching, and right now is a really good time to start engaging with your members to see if they would be open to coming to some of those events that are being held in August. They're going to be back in their districts, so if they're there, might as well come and visit your library. There's also satellite hours. I mean, I know as a past staffer, I wanted to get out of the office sometimes, and I would go to my public library, which was across the street from our office. So just to keep that in mind as well. But thank you all so much for participating. Thank you so much for the panelists, for your expertise, and we really hope that you all learned something. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, or I'm sure any of the panelists would love to answer some questions too, and I can make sure I put you in contact with them as well. So just reach out to the Washington office.